What's going on, guys? Bob Roche from RocheTechnology.com here with a brand new video series for you called Hackintosh Hardware. Now, in case you couldn't tell from the title of this series is going to cover tons of different hardware, and I'm going to show you guys how it fares in the world of the Hackintosh. So now, for example, today I'm going to kick off this series with a motherboard, and I'm going to tell you guys multi-beast settings. I'm going to tell you guys the chipsets and controllers that are on that motherboard, basically everything you guys need to know to get OS X up and running on that piece of hardware. So up front, it's probably just going to be motherboards for the first couple videos, but eventually I want to branch out and do things like graphics cards, maybe even some power supplies and some, PCI third-party add-in cards, things like that. And so basically what my end game here is I want to have kind of an ongoing video database of different Hackintosh components and how they work. Now in this video series, I probably will also include boards that do not work with OS X, because when you're researching, you want to be sure that everything is going to work. And I'm going to tell you guys which ones do and which ones don't. Ones being, a graphics card or a motherboard, etc., etc. Now I want to say that if you have a specific recommendation for a hardware component for this series, go ahead and request it. Go ahead and send me a PM on YouTube. Feel free to email me, use the contact form on my website, find some way to get in contact with me, preferably Twitter, and let me know. So without rambling anymore, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the first episode of Hackintosh Hardware. Thank you guys in advance for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. The board we're going to be looking at today is the Gigabyte Z77-D3H. What's nice about this board is that the price is in the range of a budget build, yet the board has some pretty nice features as well. The first thing I'd like to mention is that this board rocks the Z77 chipset. If you're using this board for a Hackintosh, that means no DSDT for you. As for the CPU socket, this board uses the 1155 socket. Not only is this Ivy Bridge ready, but it's also the most modern, fully compatible socket in the Hackintosh world. This board uses standard 240-pin memory and can handle memory frequencies from 1066 all the way up to 2400 MHz. Moving back to the rear I/O, let's talk about the audio. This board features the VIA VT 2021 audio chipset. Unfortunately, this isn't the most Hackintosh-friendly chipset and can be a pain to get working. Rather than sit there and scratch your head, I found a $10 plug-and-play solution, the Saiba SD-CM-UAUD. Link in the description. All this is a very simple USB interface with a line in and a line out. All you have to do is plug it into any USB port and you're good to go. Moving on with the I/O, let's talk about the USB options. The USB on this board is a little weird, but works pretty well regardless. I found that USB 2.0 devices only work in the USB 2.0 ports. As you can see here, the drive simply does not mount when plugged into a 3.0 port. Now USB 3.0 devices are a whole different story. USB 3.0 devices work in all of the 2.0 ports, as well as 2 of the 4 USB 3.0 ports. It seems that these 2 USB 3.0 ports don't work in OS X at all, even if you just want to use a keyboard or a mouse. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what PCI options we have on board. We have 3 PCI 1X slots, 1 PCI Express 3.0 with 16 channels, 1 PCI Express 2.0 with 16 channels, as well as 2 legacy PCI slots. The Z77-D3H also features an mSATA slot, which, for all intensive purposes, is a cableless SSD. While I haven't tested this, it should work in OS X, but speeds will likely be much better over a standard SSD with a SATA 3 connection. In terms of onboard display outputs, we have DVI, HDMI, and VGA. I found that the HDMI as well as the DVI work perfectly right out of the box. The VGA doesn't work, but I didn't expect it to. What's really nice is that you can dual display with the HDMI and the DVI right out of the box. A weird bug I ran into when using only the HDMI is that I would get some weird artifacting on boot up. This doesn't happen when using only DVI or in combination with the DVI, only when the single HDMI port is being used. Fortunately, this is a pretty ghetto but easy fix. All you have to do is unplug that HDMI cable and plug it back in. Sure enough, it fires right up. This problem doesn't happen when you're using a dual display setup with the DVI. Now let's talk about our SATA options. This board features 4 SATA 2 ports and 2 SATA 3 ports. While using an OCZ Agility 3 SSD in combination with the SATA 3 port, I was able to get very respectable speeds. As you can see from the test that's being run, the speeds range anywhere from 400 to 500 megabits per second for both read and write. This is an excellent setup for a boot drive. For networking, Ethernet doesn't work out of the box, but will work after installing the Atheros Ethernet kernel extension for multi-beast. I also have a wireless card installed, which works right out of the box. Having both wired and wireless connections in your system can be a huge benefit depending on your setup. Now that we've looked over all of the main components of the board, let's have a look at the multi-beast settings. For this particular board, I found that you can select either EasyBeast or User DSDT free installation. Both seem to work just fine. If you look in MultiBeast 5.2.1, which is the current version, you'll see a VIA VT 2021 kernel extension under the Audio tab. I tried to install it, but it simply did not work. There may be other kernel extensions that work, but you may want to go the easy route and get an external interface like I did. Since we're using a solid-state drive, I'm going to install the trim enabler for 10.8.1 and up. This will help extend the life of the solid-state drive. Under the Network tab, I'm going to install the Atheros Ethernet kernel extension. After a reboot, that Ethernet will be working great. And last but certainly not least, I gave this system a Mac Mini 6.1 system definition. This is the most recent Mac Mini and works great. For your convenience, here's all of the settings you'll need on a single screen. And after selecting all those and giving it a reboot, you'll be left with something that looks a little bit like this. At the end of the day, I can definitely recommend this board if you can live with two things: using an external audio interface as well as that HDMI artifacting bug. I have to stress that with time, it's possible that both of these bugs will go away. All in all, I can definitely recommend this motherboard for a Hackintosh system. Be sure to let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I'm at CPUKid on Twitter. Also be sure to check out RocheTechnology.com, and I'll see you guys in my next video.